How are you right now? Because the US is epicenter of coronavirus. How's the situation over there?
It's got quiet very quickly. In the past 3 weeks, things happened very quickly. I used to work in the office. Now our operation is 100% telework. So, it's a learning time, and we test new technologies and new lifestyle. So far, I think people here has been adjusting well.
You're in Washington D.C. right now, right?
Right.
So what is the general atmosphere in the city?
The general atmosphere is things has changed very fast, and in the beginning, people were worried, which was a natural response to things that changed so quickly. A few weeks ago, people still carry on life quite normally, taking kids to schools, going to office like normal. And just yesterday, Mayor of Washington D.C. just announced a stay-at-home order that we have to have an essential reason to be able to go out and carry on life. And they still allow people to go out just to get food, medicine, taking care of people, or even outdoor exercise. But you cannot go out and have a party or picnic in the park.
I see.
Mm-hmm. And how things have changed for you on the daily basis?
Right. So now we operate 100% from home. Our show and programs has been produced remotely, and a lot of my reporters carry on interviews on Skype, like what we are doing right now. And we put together wire service footage for video package. As for radio, we broadcast from home. We use the technology that everyone contribute feature stories, and our affiliates in Thailand has been very responsive to the change. They continue to pick up our programs. We do not lose any affiliates as we continue to provide them, the shows.
You're in charge of the Thai service of VOA. Of course, your major group of audience are Thai people, right? So
right.
Are there any specific areas that you have tried to focus on in relation to the coronavirus that you want to do, that you have been conveying to the Thai audience?
Right. I think that there are a few areas at the beginning. People are very curious about how the cases in the U.S. have been rising so fast. And then, big cities where we have Thai diaspora communities like LA, New York, these are hotspots, and they want to know what's going on with the Thai fellow people in those areas. And we did cover those areas. We have stringers in LA, and we conduct interview with people in New York. And on the macro level, people want to know how the U.S. government introduced measures to flatten the curve, and also how to provide economic stimulus to the U.S. citizen, which across the globe we have seen the similar economic stimulus, and people are curious which country would produce the most effective cure economically.
And how are the Thai expats coping with the situation?
They seek community health. We are talking about people who are quite vulnerable, like older people or people who are worried about their legal status in the U.S. They have been, attuned to the activities by Thai communities leaders. As we are talking now, the Thai community in LA area has a campaign to give people some, food supply. People can drive by at a spot in California, and they can pick up, food supply and other reliefs. And there are a lot of people who have kids, like the students who are students, and they're quite stranded because university in the U.S. Conduct all the classes online, or they have extended, the spring break period. And those Thais want to come back home, for a break. that parents want to take the kids home. And this group of population has been in contact with the Thai embassy, who would issue a statement, fit to fly statement, so that they can show it to the immigration officers when they arrive to Suvarnabhumi Airport.
And Kun Rattaphol, what's about the situation in New York? Because we can see from the news that it's quite insufficient of medical supplies, medical unit to help. What have you learned about New York?
Right. So New York has a quite troubling case, and a lot of people in the U.S. look at New York as a possible scenario that might happen in the big cities as well. So it can be a microcosm of something that could, worry a lot of people, not just in the U.S., across the world. And the medical facilities in New York are extremely strained right now. It was overrun by the great number of patients, and doctors have to make very difficult situations. Who would get the ventilators, which is, the key life support for, these people. And this week, we see a lot of support coming from the U.S. military. The hospital ship called USNS Comfort has arrived on Hudson River at the bay. New York has an access to that hospital with 1,000 beds, but they would take care of non-coronavirus patients to help lessen the load of the hospital in Manhattan and other bureaus, because they are very, very, stretched very thinly. And at the Central Park, now we have seen a very interesting scene, because people put up tents that could take care of patients as well. And in Queens, in the Flushing neighbor of Queens, they used a tennis stadium that was used to hold U.S. Open tennis tournament. Now it is being converted into a medical facility.
So there's been a lot of spirit of volunteerism around. Huh?
Exactly. Yeah.
Kun Rattaphol, you just mentioned the order by President Trump of staying at home, and right now we also have his words. So I'd like our audience to listen. So please hold on and listen to what the president has to say about stay home order.
There are some parts of the country that are in far deeper trouble than others. There are other parts that, frankly, are not in trouble at all. So hopefully, we're going to be able to keep it that way by doing what we're doing. So we talked about quarantine, as you know, the other day. A group came to me and they wanted to do the quarantine, and I said, let's think about it, and we did, and we studied it, and by the time the evening came, it just was something that was very unwieldy, very tough to enforce, and something we didn't want to do. But we did advisory, and I think that's doing well. I mean, I look at the streets, you look at New York, where I look down Fifth Avenue today, they were showing a shot of Fifth Avenue in sort of prime time, and there was almost nobody on Fifth Avenue. I've never seen that before. There was no car, there was no anything. So I think the people of this country have done an incredible job. If we do that, we will let you know, but it's pretty unlikely, I would think, at this time.
So this day, President Trump has to have daily briefing. And how do you see public sentiment, American sentiment about the president right now?
Sure. At the time of crisis, people rally behind the leaders. We have seen that in the previous crisis in the U.S., like the September 11, people rally behind President George W. Bush. And this time, people give support to President Trump. We look at the approval rating of President Trump, and it has been jumping, and political analysts say that this is quite a country is facing a disaster. Whether or not that approval rating would be durable, is remain to be seen. And and President Trump has been shown, given press conferences, and he has been surrounded by the top experts, among the most qualified in the world in the field of epidemiology. And he took, he cited numbers from, those experts. Sometimes he made comments off the cuff, and, as, it was his style, and he got criticized, but so far, the general public also, tuned to what the expert has to say, and they were, alongside the presidents in the daily press conference.
Also, this must also be a very challenging time for journalists, to get accurate and timely information about the pandemic. So, do you find it difficult, or anything challenging in particular in covering this situation?
Right. At the beginning, we were worried whether the precautionary measures would make it difficult to gather information. So far, I think the public health organizations like WHO, the CDC, has provided macro picture, and they are we think they are very reliable sources of information. On the community level, we have been able to reach to people in our network and have an interview with them. Keep the pulse close to the ground, and people provide some inspiring anecdotal stories. People in the community coming together to help each other.
And Kun Rattaphol, from what you see, how do Americans take care of themselves right now? Do they wear masks? Because
that's a very good question, because when I see the picture in Asia, people ubiquitously wear the face mask, but here in the U.S., I see that in very few occasions. But I know that in places like supermarket, they are very aware of the precautionary measures. There are marks on the ground that make sure that people stay 6 feet away from each other. And in the supermarket in my neighborhood, they only allow 50 people in the store at a time. So you have to wait outside, and you have to keep distance with other people in the queues as well. So we are living in a life that we are not familiar with, and so far so good.
50 people at one time in a supermarket, that's quite a lot of number.
Depending on the size of the supermarket, they just want to make sure that the inside are not too crowded, and people in some places, people already get very edgy about getting close to other people. So they want the peace of mind for the customers inside.
And for you, what kind of precautionary measures are you taking?
Yeah, so I wash my hand consistently, and I use disinfectant wipes a lot. And I think not, because a lot of people who wear masks kind of raise concern whether or not you are sick, and that kind of I don't want to raise a flag unnecessarily, so I don't wear masks.
And how do you get in touch with your colleagues? Totally online, 100% online?
Right. So every day we have a teleconference, and it's basically a news meeting. We talk about what are the hot stories of the day, and we give assignments to newscasters over the video conference, and after that they work on their own. Every few hours they keep updated each other, and when it's close to the show, people deliver the parts of their production, and there's one person who put together all the pieces into a show.